just learn the foundation first, which is just two things. Just be super efficient with your financial calculation and your timeline, because your clients, all they want to know is, how can I move from where I want to where I want to be? And can I afford it? After I move already, how much do I have left? What is my monthly installment? What is the payment I need to make at certain milestones? When you can conquer these two parts, you are already 50% better than the entire industry.
Hey guys, welcome to Real Talk Real Estate with Aaron Leong. But today I have a very special guest, Darren Ang. Okay, even all those of you who stays in Tampines, you might see his bus, whole face all over the bus, because he's also one of the most transacted Tampines agent. But I want to share with you that he has been consistently top 1%, right, for most of his 7 years in real estate, and also he have more than I think 15 associates already. So today we just want to pick his brain on his managerial experiences, his real estate experience, that you have been sharing with his clients, hopefully that will benefit you as you are watching this podcast. So without further ado, let us welcome Darren Ang.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thanks, Aaron, for inviting me to your podcast. I'm very honored to come on board to say a few words.
I mean, besides being my manager, okay, we got to share like a lot of juicy things, like how it actually ever actually happened, But I just want to share, the biggest thing that ever, it's still in my mind that I have not really asked you in detail. Usually we're just talking about like work stuff and all that. How did so-called professional poker player move into real estate industry? That just like mind-blowing itself.
Okay, so I think I clarify some of the statements first. Okay, I was never a professional poker player, but more like an aspiring poker player that wants to consider to do it full-time. So a bit of my journey, that was 2008. So that was poly year 2, where even back then in poly, when you're 18 years old, all you care about is how much pocket money you have to, buy your clothing, eat food, or, go out with your friends. So that was my life, thinking of ways how to make money for a living, because pocket money was quite little. So I was always working on the weekends. So Saturday, Sunday, I was always working part-time. But I needed more ways to have fun also, and more ways to also have an avenue to make money, right? So in 2008, I picked up poker. It was really by accident. It's really like, I think that was before online poker in Singapore was banned. So you can actually play online, legal. You can deposit some money, you can play online. It's still legal back then. And lo and behold, some of my family members were also playing. So then I realized, hey, my family member is my brother. So we actually got very close back then because, or even closer then, was because we had a common interest in playing this game of poker.
Okay.
So he started hosting at his house, and then started inviting friends. And before we knew it, it was every Friday, Saturday event.
Yeah.
So as with every poker player back then, 2008 was the time that there was a lot of videos. The World Series of Poker, I think, was showing on ESPN. So we would download, we would watch it. Then we would see all these famous poker players like making a lot of money, winning millions of dollars. Then it seemed like a ticket to, your freedom in your life. So I think back then, as an 18-year-old, being so naive, you thought like, wow, this is possibly something that you can do for a long time. So I played for a long time. So fast forward, I think I played for about, even up to the army. So 2 years later, went to the army in 2010 and met one friend that was also very keen on playing poker. So that naturally your interest for the sport grew.
So I just want to ask you, what is a typical working day of a poker player?
Okay, so the poker scene, I would say, is quite a dark one. And when I say dark, it's a very literal dark one, because poker games usually happen at night. Right. So poker games, my typical poker game will start at about 10 p.m. It will last until 6 a.m. So 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. you will play poker. Then after that, 6 a.m. you go and have your breakfast. Then by the time you reach home, it will be like 8, 9 a.m. Then you fall asleep. Next thing you know, you wake up, the sky is dark again.
Oh,
so you
I see.
Go out in the dark and you come home in the dark like whole day. So you don't really see the sun a lot, if that is your typical day of playing poker.
I think many of the audiences, and including myself, right, we are totally, what we think about poker, right, is a general statement called gambling, right? So gambling, usually people think that, it's about luck and all that. And you mentioned something about, watching the different championship series, how people actually play. How correlated is luck and then skill? Like how do you even like improve your chances as a poker player?
Okay, so I'm not defending any poker player out there, but to me, and I think most poker players will agree, with Texas Hold'em lah. So basically, there's a lot of variants of poker, but Texas Hold'em is the common one. And we do believe as poker players that, like as though I'm still playing, but I don't. Okay, so but poker players do believe that it is a skill-based sport. It's a game of actually probability. There's actually a lot of math involved. So long you know how to calculate the math behind each decision that you make, right?
Yeah.
It's actually long run you can be a winning player lah, because everything is based on probability ma.
But how do you calculate, like, you're in the, you don't, it's not as if like you can like write down notes or something like that.
There are certain formulas. It's like in property when you calculate stamp duty, you take the 3% minus 5,004, right?
Yeah.
Similar. So in poker, when the cards are laid on the table, there's a certain formula that we calculate based on the number of cards that is available to know what is the probability that my card will come up.
Oh.
Yeah, so based on the bet size that you do, or based on the bet that you need to call.
Yeah.
I try not to go into too technical terms today, but basically based on like the amount you need to call, and based on the probability of what the cards are going to come out, you will know whether is it a right decision or whether is it a profitable decision in the long run.
This is something that I've not heard from you before. This is exactly what I wanted to hear all this about. Okay. Because it's something that you mentioned that I'm a poker player and then now I'm a real estate agent. Like the poker player part, very brief, the info. Then the real estate life is like, I'm doing this, So I want to take this chance, right? Especially on camera where everybody can know like what exactly, is going through poker players' mind. Because I think there's a lot of those Instagram small short clips and all that on people playing poker. And then like this lady won $1 million, this person lost 100,000, that kind of thing. So, but anyways, I think enough about the poker playing. But then now that you actually transited to real estate, and you mentioned about upon army, right? Then after army you stopped playing poker already.
So my army was 4 years, so I signed on a short-term contract in the army. So that was 4 years in the army. So my army for me was a way to save money, because when you sign on the short-term contract, you do get paid sign-on bonus and a good monthly salary for a 20-year-old. So that salary actually helped me to have some savings. And my initial thought was to use the savings to, start a poker career. Because in poker, you still need a bit of a bankroll, which is a bit of money to kickstart your career. So the more money you have, the more you can play on the bigger stakes, which helps you to sort of like potentially make more money. That was the initial intention. But as with every Singaporean, I got very, very fearful. So the money ended up, I use it for my uni studies instead. Because I told myself, okay, at least have a backup plan, at least have a uni degree, so that anything, at least I have that to fall back on. But it was still always pursuing poker. But I guess there was a turning point in my life also. So that was 2013. I was really down to my last $5,000, I think, in my entire savings. And I was traveling overseas to play poker. So I've traveled to like Jeju. Macau is the famous one because there's a lot of good tournaments there. And the last venue I traveled to was Manila. It was a weekend tournament, so I went over, but with my last $5,000 to join whichever tournament I can find down there. Of course, lost a bunch of money. But it was the last day. The biggest turning point was really the last day of my of that trip. So it was about 4 hours before the flight I had to catch to go home to Singapore. I was in a table of poker, because poker there's about 10 people per table. So in a casino, right? So there's about 10 people. I still have the picture on Instagram. If you scroll through my Instagram all the way to the bottom, you will see that exact picture. Okay. That was the exact moment, is the biggest turning point in my life. Because in poker, right, one thing I cannot accept till this day is that for you to, it's a zero. So basically poker is a zero-sum game. For you to win, for me to win, right, you must lose.
Oh, yeah.
That's the thing. So it's a zero-sum game. If I win, that means somebody on the table has lost. So that, okay, if you play it for leisure, I think that's fine. Because if you play with a bunch of friends, like mahjong, like that, win a bit of money, I think that's fine. But when you do it for a living, that's when you really got to beat the person out of his money. Okay. Because that's the only way, for you to win, somebody has to lose. So that was the reality I couldn't accept, because on a table of poker players, right? Like for poker players, what we do is in the past is we try to spot tables that we are the best player, because you don't want to be playing in a table whereby everybody is a good player. Then your margin or your edge is very small. Yeah. Yeah, you want to find a table, you need to spot a table that everybody, we call it like a fish.
Right.
So that you are able to like extract the most money out of them. Lah. Yeah, so in Manila, there was a table that I spotted. Everybody is a retiree on the table.
Ooh.
And I sat down as a young boy, 20 plus year old, then all the retirees like, oh yeah, young boy. But of course, I was obviously the best player on the table down there by a big margin. Yeah, so I won a couple of $100 down there. That was a very small stake, so $1, $2 kind of stake. So you won about $300-400, which is already 100% of your buy-in already.
Yeah.
So doing quite well. But that was also the turning point that I realized that, wow, if I want to do this as a career, right, I need to continue lying to all these auntie uncles in front of me. Because all these auntie uncles were losing money to me, right?
Yeah.
But I was just there, hey, no lah, you're playing very well lah, auntie. No worry, yeah, lucky lah. Because it's like that. That's the reality of poker. Like we even have books in poker, right? To teach you how to win people's money. Like the biggest teaching in poker is that, for example, you spot somebody that is very lousy in poker, right? For example, you have maybe $1,000. If I sit down and play with you, for that day, I will not win your full $1,000. I will only win you, I only will take about $700 of your money so that I give you a glimmer of hope to come back again.
Oh no.
That is the reality of poker. Like it's taught in the books. I think it's called Ace on the River by Barry Greenstein. It's one of the famous poker books, right? Like they teach people, I cannot win all your money so that you will still come back the next round. Then I can win more of your money after that. Because if I were to win your full 1,000 today, you won't come back again. But I want you to come back, ma. So that was that moral thing that I couldn't accept. Wow, it's a poker teaching, but it's something that in my life I couldn't like accept lah. So I guess that was why that biggest turning point led me to realize that I don't have that mental strength to carry on in this career lah, in a sense.
Then what made you join real estate agent? You can join other sales. What? Why real estate?
Okay, truthfully, it's not like I don't know, most agents may say what passion for property and kind of stuff, right? That's quite common. But truthfully, I stumbled upon it one. It was really just an innocent university gathering. So a bunch of my university friends, one of them was already in real estate. So he said, hey guys, why not we meet up for dinner? It's been a long time since we haven't seen each other. Yeah, so we went, but before that, y'all come for my company seminar first. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I attended the company seminar thinking that I just want to meet them for dinner after that, right? But during that company seminar, I guess I was really down and out, we lose money in poker, then no money, and like really, really down and out in life already. So I guess probably the initial lure of, as with any new agents that come in, the initial lure of like, wow, flexible hours, good income. Yeah. But for me, I saw it as a third thing. So yes, flexible hours, good income, but I saw it as a third thing that you gain a life skill also. Because eventually everybody in Singapore probably will eventually buy a property at some point in time. Right. So that third point of having a life skill, if it doesn't work out, made it very like, why not just give it a shot? Since you're at your lowest point, the only way is up. So why not just give it a shot and try?
I want to ask this burning question. In regards to your, I would say, your poker playing, what do you call that skill set? I cannot say you're negotiating with somebody, but then you are actually trying to read people's emotions, you're trying to read the situation and try to get extract the best value out of it. Yeah. So how does that help you in, extracting value for your clients?
Okay, of course, I'm not too proud of my past, but I don't mind sharing. To me, it's always a learning lesson for the next generation to learn. Yeah. But even though, yes, the poker playing days are over already, but through the game, through the sport, you actually learn quite a lot of things. And one thing is really about how to read the situation in the room. Because in poker, right, we are able to read the player based on like his expression or based on how he moves. Okay. So like sometimes when a poker player has good cards, right, his veins will pop over here because adrenaline rush, and your veins will be very.
I'm gonna hike my neck
because your veins are popping, so we know you got good cuts. Or some people when they are bluffing, their ears will turn red because adrenaline, or they cannot. Or when they are bluffing, they drink water. Okay. Or when some people, when they got very good cuts, they tend to sit very still, but the adrenaline needs to be channeled somewhere, so their legs will start to wobble. Oh. Yeah. Or some people have sweaty palms, so when they raise up their hand, you can see sweat on the table. Oh. Then you know this person has good cuts. Okay. Yeah. You start to read people's tendencies, we call it. So same thing in real estate. I guess this skill could be used in real estate as well, in the sense that you can usually read the room. So sometimes when we are doing like calculations for clients or planning for clients, right, we can tell that they're not comfortable, or we can tell that there are things that they haven't fully shared with us or haven't been fully like transparent with us yet. So when I can observe this kind of tendencies, right, then I can either ask deeper, or I can formulate my own thoughts first to know that, okay, this is an avenue that the client is not comfortable. How can I like get the client to be comfortable so that I know the truth of why they want to sell or want to buy?
I see.
Yeah.
What is the most memorable milestone for the last 7 years in real estate for you? I mean, you won so many awards. You negotiated so many deals for people. Like, what is the one key scenario or award that you have won, or something that you have achieved in the last 7 years that you're really, really proud to share?
Truthfully, I can't think of one particular moment, but it's a series of many different moments. And I try not to let the idea of like having awards and stuff cloud my judgment, because ultimately we are in the business of serving people, right? So if you ask me immediately what comes to mind, is always the successful cases that we help our clients with, that is the most fulfilling and the ones that really stick in the head that I remember the most. So should I like share some cases or what?
I only remember one thing that you actually did for me that until today I still remember very, very fondly, right? Is that you told me that, hey Aaron, for the last viewings that you have went with me when I first joined, right? You brought me around and all that. And then, I'll close all these cases, all these appointments, but I want to show you, what's the reality of the market like, how do I handle rejection? Because, most likely this case will not close. So you brought me to this show flat, right? And then I keep harping on this, like, to every new team member that joins. And then, true enough, you just like stood there, and then you just briefly mentioned a few things to the client, but you also mentioned that you already did all the hard work before that, all the homework was done before that. The client was prepped. So you walk around the show flat for 1 round and 2 rounds. And this moment, he passed you the IC, and then you gave I will never forget your expression. You're like, why are you passing this thing to me for? They say, oh, I decided I want to buy this unit. And he knew exactly the unit that he wants, exactly which tag and everything. So, and then the most, I would say, the thing that really struck me so much, right, was that the tagger, the project tagger, right, he walked up to you and he said that, hey, Darren, congrats to you. And then you'll be like, oh, okay. But you seem to be like, is this real or whatever? But then he said, do you know how much you have made, And then you said, no, I do not know. Then I was like, in my heart, you do not know how much commission you're going to get from this deal? And obviously I do not know because I was new, right? And then he said I cannot remember the exact figure, but it was a big figure. It was like 50,000 plus ang pao from the developer, $8,888 or something like that. But it's a big amount, right? Especially for me when I first joined, I was like, what? This is crazy. And then after the whole appointment, I asked you the question like, are you like for real? Like didn't know about the commission? And then I remember what you said. You said, if I knew the commission, right, it would have clouded my judgment to advise the client accordingly to what they need. Yeah, because if you know like, oh, I'm going to be having this high commission, right, then you'll be, human nature is that you would tend to push that product instead. So that really like resonate really well with me, and I still like tell people about this and how so till date actually when I go to the show flat, right, I also try to look at the commission on so that it will really help us.
Okay. Like I mean, the ways of the world is a bit different. I guess the secular world sometimes may not agree with how I do things or how we do things, but it's just a certain belief that I have that I don't want to let the superficial things of this industry like cloud my judgment. Because ultimately I must always remember that I'm serving a client, helping them to get from where they are to where they want to be. So I cannot let all these external factors that is beneficial to me to cloud my judgment in a way that it is not good for the clients. So that is this is why.
So being a real estate agent, being a really good one for your clients, but then, how is it like to be a manager? Because I understand in real estate industry, right?
Yeah.
I mean, in other industries, the upliner fee is a lot higher. But then for real estate is significantly, you know, not as lucrative as if you were to close your own cases. So to invest that kind of time and effort, right? What was your thought process? Why do you even want to form a team?
I guess since I was much younger, maybe even in secondary school, I've always had this habit of like, I like to impart things into people, or I like to teach people things. And I think starting a team wasn't also like intentional one. It was really just on the way by the way kind, because most of our teammates are actually, they know me in some form. Like I have my primary school friend, secondary school friend, poly friend, army friend. So all walks of life through some interaction before that they have all joined me. And I would say like one of the biggest challenges as a manager, right, or a team leader, right, is sometimes you yourself will feel very inadequate. And the reality is that we are all in the same life stage. That means we are either all in the same age group or same life stage. And you guys were my friends first before you all joined me as, and now like I'm your mentor or manager in a sense, but you guys were my friends first. It's like I have a friend like we used to like chiong in the army together. So we used to like, you know, we used to suffer and chiong in the army together, but now he joined me, I must teach him, which is fine. But sometimes, you know, when you, or anybody like when you want to mentor in a sense, right, sometimes you got to tell the person off, or like got to like, not say scold, but you got to like tell the person off to correct the person, right? It gets very difficult because we are all in the same life stage, and I feel like nobody is better than the other. It's just that, just so happen I have more experience in the industry. I've been around for longer, so that's why I'm put in a position to lead you guys. Yeah, so challenge is really, you guys are my friends first. So
I think the only difference, I think most of our teammates, right, they are all, you know, they were friends with you before. And I think I'm one of the few that wasn't like, you know, I didn't know you for a long time. It was one of our team member who actually told me that, who I was friends with, they say that, you know, whoever that you meet to be your potential manager, you have to meet Darren Ang first before you make any decision. And back then I'm somebody who, you know, if you want to make a decision on somebody, I want to see everybody. I want to see the best, right? So I've spoken to most of the best. I mean, I may have left out a few. So if I've not met you, it's not that you're not the best. It's just that I met quite a few, and then to make from the various agencies. And then I remember when actually I DM you on IG, and then I was like, would he even reply? I mean, he's like, you know, already quite successful already, right?
Okay, I think that was your impression of me.
But I was like, you know, I don't think he would want to meet me. And you actually drove all the way down to my place, to where I'm comfortable, right, in terms of location. And then I think within 15 minutes of the conversation, and then I was like, oh yeah, this is the manager I want to be with. I think because you're the only one who actually, I don't dive too much into it, but then you're the only one who gave me an actionable plan. I think most people, they actually tell me about like, oh, you're going to have this life, you're going to have, you're going to make this X amount of money, but nobody actually gave me like, this month, first month, this is what you do. Second month, this is what you learn. Third month, fourth month, this 6 months, and then we review what we're going to do better in the next 6 months to come. And what was the closing factor for me was that you drove the car that I was like, it's like my dream car. I mean, like, and in the exact color that I wanted. So that, like, you know, gave me a sign, right? Like this must be it. But anyways, how important is teamwork in real estate? Because, you know, everybody's just running their own sales, right? Why do you think, because you're a very strong preacher about this, like, how important is it?
Okay, but disclaimer first, don't join me because of car or any kind of stuff. You don't join for the car reason.
Too late. It's already ingrained in their mind.
Okay, so with regard to teamwork, right? I guess standard teamwork is definitely important, but what I feel is more important, right, is having good partners in the industry that you can trust. Okay. So yes, teamwork standard. I know teamwork makes the dream work. You know, the classic line. That one is important. But what I feel is more important really is having good partners in the industry. What I mean by that is like, for example, you as a salesperson selling a house, right? There's so many things you need to do. You need to coordinate photographer, maybe you take your own pictures, but maybe you have an external vendor, photographer, 3D tour. Your client wants to take loan, they need a mortgage broker. Your client wants to select a law firm, you need a law firm partner. Your client wants to, what else? Like dispose stuff, you need to fix stuff in the house, you need a handyman, you need a contractor, you need a mover. So what I feel is the most important is having all these reliable partners. Once you can find one good partner in each segment, right, then really build a relationship with them so that they become your partners that actually mirror your work as well. Because the reality sometimes is that people, you can do 10 good things for people, but people sometimes only remember the one bad thing that you do. So you can do all the great work, but sometimes what you cannot control is the external vendors like messing up your case.
Right.
Yeah. I have one example for like there's this client that is very particular. She's very, very careful. And I appreciate that because I appreciate when people are very, very detailed and careful and meticulous.
Yeah.
So for her case, I definitely want to be extra meticulous because I know the client's profile is like that. But unfortunately, because I engaged a law firm that is, the law firm is okay, just that the representative that I was working with, not on the same wavelength as me. So overly kind of cautious, kind of like we know, like it's a standard, right? Like sell and buy is a 3 weeks apart gap for the CPF money and the loan, right? So we know like that is a sure given can be done. But when the client went down to the law firm, the person in charge was like, usually 3 weeks can, but we prefer 4 weeks, we prefer longer. What you're doing is not really correct. Then it undermined all the good work that we do.
Yeah.
So for the months, I was like, in my mind, I was thinking like, bro, help me. Wow, like for so many months, you can do all the good work only to be destroyed by just one 30-minute session where the law firm representative said the wrong things.
Right.
So to me, what I feel is having good trusted partners that can work on your style, it is the most important.
You mean like the co-brokes as well, is it?
But sometimes co-brokes you can't really control of who you are dealing with. But like basically vendors. That means, for example, like when we're doing a 3D tour shoot for the client.
Oh, right.
The company that we engage, we know is reliable. The company, even sometimes when we are not there, they will turn up. They know how to prep the clients. They know how to talk to the clients. They are a good mirror of you. They are a good extension of you.
I see.
Because sometimes the clients will look at the vendors, how come, Darren, you hire this kind of one, you no good, eh? Then they are no good become we no good.
I see.
Right.
But how about the teammates?
Yeah.
Like, I'm a realtor, you're a realtor, right? So how important is it like we must have teamwork, and because we are all running our own games, right?
I would say definitely. I mean, teamwork is quite like a overly kind of used word, right? But I think in terms of personality, more like the personality of the agents working with each other must sing the same song, in a sense. Yeah. Because everybody joins real estate for different reason.
Yeah.
Some people come in, they really just want to, I don't know, make more money and then and different wavelength, I would say. I don't have a better word for it, but if an agent and agent, they are partners, if they are on a different wavelength, right? So what I do will make sense to you.
Yeah.
Then you won't appreciate, you won't understand.
Right.
Like you won't understand the lengths I go to my client.
Yeah.
If a person is not on my same wavelength, they'll be like, Darren, why you do all these things for the clients one? Like, not necessary one.
Yeah.
But to me, I value this because this is what I want to give the clients. But if you don't agree with it, then you keep fighting my ways and then you won't agree with it.
Right.
And then we will never ever be good partners. Yeah. So I think finding people who are on the same wavelength as you is more important.
And you always tell me that you are extra selective of the teammates that will be joining. So what is your selection process? I mean, obviously, like other mentors will be like, I just, get by the numbers. I don't care who you are. If you want to join real estate, you have a license, you just join me. But I think you're one of a few people that actually said that I'm very careful in selecting the team members.
Okay. So this is probably the first time I share it openly, right? Sometimes I share with you in private. It's still a thought that I'm not fully certain that my way is correct.
Okay.
Because in the Bible, what happens is Jesus left the 99 to save the one. So I should save everybody. I should try to save everybody, right?
Yeah.
But in real estate, I realized I can't do that. Or I try to do that, but I realize it's detrimental to the rest of the team.
Right.
So it's a concept that I'm personally still am trying to figure out whether what is the right path. I need a lot of prayer, need a lot of guidance, need a lot of wisdom from God to really direct me on this path. But I think I do things a little bit differently. Because in real estate, I guess the typical way is that you just recruit as many people as possible. You recruit maybe 10, 20 people, 50 people at one go, right? Do a big campaign, recruit people and stuff. And you just polish all of them. And some of them will turn to stones, which is the lousy stone. You just leave it on. But you just polish 50 people, sure, we'll have 1 or 2 that are diamonds, right?
Yeah.
Then you just work on the diamonds. Because Pareto principle is 80-20. 80%, it means 20% of the people will make 80% of your sales. So that means to say that if you just polish 50 people, you should get about 4 or 5 that is quite good. Then you just make sure that you hone them and you mold them. Then they will make 80% of your sales. Then the rest of the 40 plus people, you just let them sink or swim. Yeah, so that is the typical way, I guess, how recruitment happens. I'm not saying everybody does that, but I have witnessed teams doing that before. And then all the sink or swim people, people, they will just be left to, I don't know, I don't know what happens to them in the industry. But this is something that I cannot accept. I know this is the ways of the world, but yet I cannot accept it because behind every person is a family. Right? They have parents to feed, they have children to feed. Like, I'm just discarding their life. I cannot understand this concept, and so I'm more idealistic. I don't know whether my way works, but what I believe is that I rather my team be smaller, but everybody does well together. That is my very idealistic goal that I prefer. And how I think I can achieve that is that I don't want to recruit too many at one time. Right? Like, the team can grow by, 4 or 5 people a year, like, that's enough. Probably that's enough. Yeah. Then I can have more one-to-one time with these people to grow their skill set so that they can do better. Then eventually they will reach a point that, like, for example, yourself, you don't really call me anymore now already. Like, you have already reached a point that you are already self-sustaining and you're doing very, very well already. So that's when I can take in new people, the next batch of people. Yeah. So every year, 4 or 5 people, 6, 7, like, probably that is good enough for me. Then I have a balance of everything that I want in my life. Right. Because I guess, like, hustle culture is what everybody wants.
Yeah.
I must work hard, chiong, everything. But the reality of it is that I look at all the big teams and I look at their leaders' life and I realize I'm not envious of their life also. Yes, their overriding may be more, they may have more team sales or whatsoever, right? But I'm not envious of their life in any way because I feel like they have to continue to strive to prove their worth all the time. Yeah, like, maybe not the best way to put it, but how I can say is like it reached a point that because to them real estate is their identity. Without real estate, without working hard in real estate, they are nobody. So that's why they are forced to work hard in the real estate industry. Working hard is fine, but when your identity is in your job, right, that's wrong. Because our identity should be, we are a child of God, we are enough. We are not a real estate agent by identity. But once your identity is in your real estate job, right, then you always will feel that you are lacking something. Right? Another team do yacht party, I must do yacht party. Another team do chalet stay, I must do chalet stay. Another team, they sponsor, they go overseas trip, we must do overseas trip. They end up, if I start to fall into that trap, right, then I realize, like, it's not fulfilling life, or it's not let's say even in terms of money, it's not a good steward of money. Like, just because, the other team do yacht party, I must do yacht party as well. I must like I think that is a bit poisonous in the industry, which is something that I don't prefer.
I see.
Or I've seen even like leaders, like, every other time they are falling sick, then they are posting on Instagram, I'm sick, but I still carry on for my team. But there is a point of hard work, and at some point it's reckless really, right? Like, nobody wants you to be in the hospital all the time, and like, I think that's a bit reckless really. When you reach that point of work that you cannot stop because you feel like that's your identity, you have to work hard for your people like that then that's a bit reckless really.
So from what I've seen so far is that generally the entire team, right, actually brings back, food back to the table for their families and all that. Everybody is like earning a decent amount of income. And also, most importantly, is that the culture that you have set, right, is really more like I wouldn't go to the extent like, we are like family, right, that kind of thing. But it's more like cordial, and if you actually need help or anything like that, there's always help there in the group chat, and if you can call any one of them, they are more than willing to help. I want to ask you this question, like, if let's say a new agent, and obviously this is very hypothetical because everybody comes from different walks of life, but I would think that they want to do a mid-career switch, right? Or they're coming up from school, they knew nothing about real estate. Probably the only real estate deal was like what they seen their parents, transact or something, or transact their own BTOs or something like that. What type of mentoring style do you have for them? Like, do you have like a framework or something that you can effectively guide them through?
Okay, for new agents, I always believe, especially with every real estate company, right? If you join any of the big 4 real estate companies, right?
Yeah.
They will always overwhelm you with trainings. That is the standard one, right? You got this consumer seminar, you can go, you got this program, this training, this signature event. Like, training can be very overwhelming. But it's the way of the company showing their value. Like, you join this company with all this training, all this software, all these things. There's just a lot of things. In fact, it gets very overwhelming.
Yeah.
I always believe, yes, training is good, but you don't overtrain. That means you train less, but you do more. So my intention is that anybody who joins, right, within, depends on the pace of the person, how part-time or full-time the person is, within 2 to 3 weeks, right, you should be already starting to talk to the first client. So what I want to empower the people that join us, right, is we have that 10-day signature program, right? The 10-day signature program is really just what is enough to get you started to start to talk to people. You must sound like an agent already. That means after these 10 days, you will already sound like a seasoned property agent that nobody can even question, hey, you brand new in the industry, because the last thing you want to do is I check and let you know with your clients, right?
Yeah.
That classic statement we always say with our clients, I check and let you know. We want to eliminate that.
Yeah.
So that 10-day program, of course, it can be better. Anything can be better, but as of now, I see that program as enough to get the person started so that the person can start taking more actions and starting to speak to more clients.
Yeah. And I think the signature program is about, I would say the boring stuff, right? It's like financial calculation, timeline, these 2 main essentials, right? That actually will help an agent really help their clients do well.
Correct. The truth is, in the real estate, there's a lot of fluff, decoupling, sell one, buy two, do this, do that. There's a lot of stuff in the real estate that you need to learn. But I always believe as an agent, just always be humble to learn the fundamentals and the foundation first. Like I think, I don't know whether I've shared with you before, like anybody who meets me, I will always use my iPad. I'll put it on the table. I say, this is your foundation. Then let's say if I'm in a cafe, right, I'll take the tissue or I take the cup, right?
Oh yeah.
Right. So I'll put the cup first. I say, decoupling is like the cup. Sell one, buy two is like this tissue paper. If I put the cup first and then the tissue paper on top, then I put my iPad on top, it's going to be wobbly.
Yeah.
So all these are just fluff, right?
Yeah.
All the cup, the tissue paper and stuff, just learn the foundation first, which is just 2 things. Just be super efficient with your financial calculation and your timeline. And that helps to build trust with your clients, because your clients, all they want to know is, how can I move from where I want to where I want to be?
Yeah.
And can I afford it? After I move already, how much do I have left? What is my monthly installment? What is the payment I need to make at certain milestones? If you can conquer these 2 parts, right? I joke when I say this, but sometimes I don't know whether I mean it sometimes. But when you can conquer these 2 parts, you are already 50% better than the entire industry, right?
That was something that I couldn't believe when you actually told me that. Then I say, if I learn this thing and I'll be 50% better, but I'm only like day 1, are you sure, So I did that and just like totally immerse myself with these calculations and all that. And true enough, like, I'm quite shocked. Like, there are some clients that have been served by a certain agent for like, several months. And then when you ask them, like, do you know how much is coming out of cash that's coming out if you sell this house? They say, no. I say, then what are you going to do? Like, if you need time to renovate your new place and the transition with the funds coming in time for the purchase, then they'll be like, no, I absolutely. Then I was like, what? Then I was like, and also a recent client that I have, right? 2 years, this person has been searching for a unit, and they want to sell and buy, their HDB flat and all that. For 2 years, but calculation, timeline, it is something that I'm very, very shocked. So, but thank you so much for sharing about the, your whole managerial experience and I think you touched a little bit about the market, about financial calculation and all that. I just want to ask you, based on the current market trend, right? just to benefit our audience over here, lah. Because you have so much experience and you've already seen through several different scenarios, that played out in the market. And you as a poker player, your prediction, must be quite soon. So I just want to think, how is the current market trends going to affect buyers and how is it going to affect sellers?
Okay, if we look at the market right now, prices are considered what by most people will say is on the higher side.
Yeah.
And then interest rate is a bit higher. Okay. So, I mean, that's the reality of the market now. Prices are a bit higher, interest rate is higher. But if you think about it this way, if you can pull up a chart somewhere, right? Like if you flash it in your podcast or something, like pricing is correlated to interest rate. If you look at the history of the entire Singapore, you date back like 20, 30 years, right? Whenever the interest rate moves, property price will move alongside with it. So when interest rate drops, right, that's when people feel that the cost of borrowing is cheaper.
Oh yeah.
Like for myself, initially, I was looking at a property 3 years ago when I bought, right? Like initially I set my budget at the X amount, but my eventual budget actually increased by 200,000 because I realized that, hey, the cost of borrowing back then, my loan was only 0.99%, floating rate 0.99%. I was like, wow, technically, if I bump up my budget by 200,000, I can still afford that property because installment is cheap. So that's the mindset. No? Right now, when interest rate is high, people feel like, it's a bit tighter on the pocket, right? Pricing will be a bit more flat. Okay, but the moment interest rate drops, the reality is that people start to feel like, hey, actually, I can afford already. I can buy higher. That's when pricing can see a shift and a jump.
So now is a good time for buyers to actually buy the prices where it's more controlled.
I would say if you are a buyer into this market, you need to exercise more prudence. You buy within what you're comfortable. Because if you can already accept a 3%, 3.5% interest rate, you buy something that is comfortable within that interest rate, right? Eventually, when the interest rate drops, you will be even more comfortable because your monthly installment will drop by probably maybe $1,000 or more. So if you're already comfortable at 3.5, that purchase, when it drops to 2%, 1.5 again, you'll be even more comfortable.
Yeah.
And that's when you don't have to fear about the market because you have the time to be in the market.
Okay, so we're going to show some love for our sellers. So now that the prices, is looking to be a flat line, right? What advice do you have? Should they even sell in the first place?
Okay, so the big question I always ask sellers, right? Because sellers will always approach us and say, hey, Darren, is it a good time to sell? Should I wait longer? Very typical one.
Yeah.
So rather than look at the external factors, which is what the market is happening, all the noise in the market, right? I always ask the clients to look internally. And a classic thing I always tell you guys, which is so relevant, right? I always ask the client, what is your purpose of even selling? If we can't, after this conversation today with the client, right, we spend like 2-3 hours on our seller presentation, right? If we can't discover the purpose, don't sell your house, please. Okay. So usually the purpose only falls into 4 factors. People generally sell a house for 4 reasons. Number 1, either they are moving to a primary school. I think that is the most common thing.
Yeah.
A lot of our cases is, sell Punggol, buy Tampines for the good school, or buy Upper Thomson for Aitong, this kind of reasons. So if they're moving for this kind of reason, yes, then you make the move before it's too late, before you miss out on the primary 1 registration.
Yeah.
Number 2, some people really need a bigger house because, they stay in a 3-room flat, got 4 children with 1 helper. So total 7 people staying in the 3-room flat. If finances allow, should move as soon as possible before your children grow up. It gets even tougher to stay in the house.
Okay.
Some people move for work because maybe their job relocate somewhere else. Like some people, I have this seller ever staying in a very central area in Tampines, but to her this place is trash to her because why? Her workplace got shifted to Bukit Batok. So if they're moving for this reason, yes, then it's a strong reason because every day if you travel Tampines to Bukit Batok is a very painful journey. So we move is because we want to be closer to our workplace.
Okay.
Or lastly, the last reason ties with the first reason usually, the children's school, right? The last reason is moving to closer to your parents. Because, like now, husband and wife generally is working. So most of the time, like after school care, usually go to your grandparents' place, which is your parents' place, right? So people do move for that reason, so that after school is easy for the grandparents to pick up the child. So generally, these are the 4 reasons only. Of course, there are other sub-reasons, but these are the major 4 reasons. If the clients don't resonate with any of them, typically I tell them don't sell the house.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've 2 last questions for you before we end off this podcast. What's your market prediction of the latest BTO classification? and then how it affects the general market. Because you shared that with us before, and I believe it will really benefit our audience.
Wow. So I don't know whether, if this goes out, I don't know whether it's a but this is my own personal prediction.
Yes,
I guess
yes.
everybody's entitled to their opinions. So this is my true belief. Of course, it changes over time. So maybe 6 months down the road, if something changed, my opinions may change as well. But as of now, how I feel is that very interesting. When the government body create a solution, right? You know, they have the prime land housing. That's what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
Prime land housing, your plus land housing. So now you got 10 years MOP, 14,000 income ceiling. After you sell already, you still need to return back a bit of profits to the government and stuff. Like all this will successfully suppress the price of the BTOs, which is correct, because ultimately public housing should be kept affordable. So that measure is actually a good measure because it prevents them from upgrading too early. The 10 years MOP itself kills a lot of upgrading dreams already, which is good. So it suppresses HDB price, which then overall suppresses the overall market price, artificially suppress so that the prices don't inflate like 10% year on year.
Yeah.
But you see, when you create a solution here, right, you also create another problem. Because the existing flats that are not affected in the same location, suddenly the value will hold better. That's my opinion. Like, for example, if you look at should we name blocks? Is it okay to name the blocks?
I think like the area, like generally.
The area, okay. So if you go to Kallang MRT, I think that's a very obvious area. So Kallang MRT, the newest MOP project, the newest MOP one, just MOP about 5 to 6 years on, right? That 3 blocks, right, are not affected by the prime land housing. But right in front of it, the BTO just announced a couple of months ago, they balloted. All this will be affected by the prime land housing. So eventually, 15 years down the road, right, it will still be a relatively quite a new flat. And 15 years later, a buyer that comes into Kallang now will be like, hey, this flat I cannot buy. Because this flat, my income ceiling crossed already, you know, or a lot of restrictions I cannot buy, right? But I can buy the one across, which is relatively like still newish. Right. And that will actually increase the price of the area when, you know, your supply is still very little, but your demand is very high for that area.
Right.
And so you create a solution, but yet another problem may surface whereby the existing ones that are not affected will increase in price or like have more demand.
So if the BTO flats, right, they have such restriction, eventually when they sell, you know, there's a certain cap to how much they can sell. Would it affect the private property segment as well? Because for HDB upgraders, and they are one of the, you know, people that will look into private properties as well.
Correct. So I would say like it will inevitably will still affect, because this group of people that bought the plus and prime land housing, right, they won't be able to upgrade so easily. Or even if they really have the aspiration, they don't mind to sell at whatever price they can accept, and you know and pay back the 6% profit and stuff. High chances, yes, their profit margin for them to upgrade will be lesser, which then may also suppress a bit of the private property market now.
I see.
But I think it's too little at this moment to say that it will cause a big effect, because overall most of them will still be a normal housing. But only a selected few in the central areas will be the plus and prime land housing.
Okay.
But if you think about it another way, so many schools of thoughts, the plus and prime land housing, they are already in a very good location. So maybe they buy the house, they also won't sell one. But it's the people who are in the heartlands area that want to sell. These people are not affected. Then they sell, they will still upgrade. So I think it doesn't, now that
I guess there will be a better balance.
Better balance.
But still, we are looking at the uptrend eventually, but in a gradual pace.
In a slower pace, I think the more sustainable pace. What we want is a Singapore price to never crash, but to grow in a sustainable pace. I think what we observe over the last few years is that prices, when they grow by 10, 15% over a short period of time, it's just not sustainable because income is not catching up fast enough.
Right. Yeah. Okay, one final question, right? Do you have any last advice for people who want to buy a real estate or sell their current property? Do you have any last advice for them?
Speak to us first.
That's a good one.
I would say, yes, I mean, I joke about that, but it's also right. Like, speak to a trusted professional first. Allow them to share with you on the market processes. Like, don't rush into the whole process. I think what most people do wrongly is that it's very normal. Like, it's very common. We see this almost every day that buying the new house always is an exciting thing. So how a home seller or home buyer always do is, first thing they do is go onto the property portals and start to search for properties. That is the common thing to do. Because nobody likes to talk about all the boring stuff. Everybody likes to search about. It's like Same thing like buying the new iPhone that's coming out. You want to buy the iPhone, so you will go and find out more information about it, but you will not think about selling your old iPhone until you buy the new iPhone.
Right.
So that's the same theory in property. You know? People always want to find out what they can buy first, then they go and discard the old one later.
Yeah.
You can do that for iPhone because you can buy first, but in property, the reality is that you may not be able to buy first. So what you need to do is take a step back first. So which is the step 0, not even step 1. Step 0 is, sit down with a trusted agent, or if you know how to do it yourself, which is not too difficult, but yet at the same time, you always have that fear whether you do it correctly, right? So best is to still sit down with an agent, let them do a proper analysis and a proper calculation for you first, so that you know that how much you can sell, how much you can buy, what is the interim, all the additional fees, all the nitty-gritty stuff. Let the agent go through with you so that you have a clarity about whether this move is a right one for you. At the end of it, no obligation. Because once again, the agent is not a magician. Doesn't mean he stepped into your house means your house will get sold. Some people have the belief that, agent 来我的家, agent come my house means the house will get sold. And it doesn't work that way. Like, I think we have already evolved from that now is a more consultative approach, that when we come to your place, is really just to give you an idea about what are your options in the market. End of it, if you say you don't want to sell, good, you make a friend and then hopefully you refer your friends. That's all.
Thank you so much for coming down to this podcast. How can our audience find you? Do you have an Instagram handle or something like that?
Okay. So my Instagram handle is Darren Ang, my name DARONANG. So all across all social media platforms, it's the same name. So you can find me there.
All right. Thank you so much, guys. And thank you so much, Darren, once again, for tuning into Real Talk Real Estate. And we have our, very, very prominent guest, Darren Ang, and we will see you on the next podcast.